Now, the life of Neferuptah in the book, she's different, okay, and so much that we find out about her a little bit later, right? And so in the in chapter 10, Neferu-Ptah means beauties of the god Ptah. It is the name constructed in the same manner as Sobekneferu, okay, which we know as the beauties of the god Sobek. Okay, now let's get to it. We're gonna break this down. All right, hit the like button. We're gonna break this down. What we're gonna do. We're going to. I'm using this book. Okay, the book coming for by day, and we're gonna go from left to right. We're gonna go from left to right. All right, give me a thumbs up. All right, here we go. Now, on the left side, on this side here, of course, we have in the middle Neferu-Ptah holding not a tambourine, but more of a shaker, right? And it has Hathor as a symbol there. Okay. Brother Joe said, I like the live sessions, but I like the lessons any way I can get it. You know, we crave right here. We're learning together. So just let me know. Brother Ferguson said he liked the lives. All right. So from left to right. Now, on the top, okay, you see those wavy lines there? That means in or of. You see that little leaf of that bird? That word means Su or herself. I can't really get that top part, but we're going to do left and right. So of herself, those two little bowls means Nebet or Lord or Nebu, Lord of Lords. So she this is in Su Neb in Nefer, okay, Nefer, Te Eta, okay, Pet, and then her name in the Shem, okay, Neferu, it said Neferu, Pet He, a Ptah, Neferu-Ptah. And then right here, Da'ank, Tetef, meaning this, okay, we're on the left-hand side. Those wavy lines there on the left-hand side means of herself. She is the Lord of herself. Nefer, she's from this place or from a place, and she is Nefer, okay, beautiful, Nefer, eternally beautiful, okay. So Te'eta, this phrase right here, this section right here with the bold snake and this little line here, that means eternity. Of herself, the Lord from a beautiful place, from eternity. She is the Neferu-Ptah, okay, Pet, that means heaven, He, eternal, okay. Of course, that's Neferu-Ptah, D, okay, given, D-Unk, okay, given life of his body, okay. So this is an eternal proclamation saying that she is the Neferu-Ptah. This is a proclamation. This is before Sobekneferu, okay. So somebody has already proclaimed her as the queen, the Insubiti, the Nebu, right? The Lord of Lords kind of thing. Okay, the king. So she's coming from this beautiful place, eternity. She is a beautiful, she's Neferu, Neferu, beautiful heaven, eternity. So the beautiful place of heaven eternally, and the given life or chosen or granting life of his body. So on this side is talking about her, okay, basically reinvigorating that lineage, reinvigorating that legacy. Okay, she was born into this. Okay, so that is the left-hand side. Okay, that is the left-hand side. On the right, okay, we have the little hook there called Sakah. Sakah, that means to gather. Okay, to gather. And this section here with the little line, the dot, okay, and that little section right there, that basically means Hotep or Hetepu, to gather in peace or to gather offerings. Okay, she came for a purpose, to gather offerings, right? And this section here, that little line there, that means to bind. Okay, that means heb, to bind or to connect. That little eye with the little line, that is Ren, her name. Her name of it, okay, that is Shu again. That's another word of Su. And Nebet, the Lord, to bring life again together. So to bring life, and in this little circle with the line right there, to like or ma, and to rise in the course of his body. Now, here it is. Okay, Seka Hetepu, Heb, Ren, okay, Ren Nam, okay, Ren Su Nebet, that means to bring, Seka, Ank Saka, Ma, Mara, Mara, to rise, Tetef. Okay, this section is talking about her lineage. She's basically born into this. This on the B side, on the right side, is talking about what she is here to do. But we're talking about a purpose, to gather peace. Okay, to Seka, to gather. Hatepo, peace, to connect. Okay, Heb, that's connect. Ren, her name. Okay, Su, it or herself. Okay, as the Lord. Okay, as king, to bring life, to gather and to rise like his body, or the Neteru. So she was here to basically realign and bring back balance and peace to Kemet. But I don't think she was able to fulfill that. I don't think so, because as we know, she did not become. She didn't become the Insubiti. She, even though the titles, she was chosen. She was chosen to be king of Egypt. Neferu-Ptah, on record, as we see, was supposed to be the next king, the next Insubiti. All right, but I don't think that happened. All right, so Neferu-Ptah means the beauty of the god Ptah. It's the name constructed in the same manner as Sobekneferu, but Ptah at the end, right? Even though the princess' personal name might suggest her connection with Ptah, the Neferu-Ptah, whose main temple is in Mennefer or Memphis, her religious interests lay elsewhere, though. Her name says Ptah, but her actions is saying something different. Y'all, these people are very complicated. These people are very complicated. All right, so both, get this, both Amenemhat and his daughter Neferu-Ptah in the temple faces were toward a snake-headed goddess Renenuet. In the temple, they were facing. Her name says Ptah, but they're giving reverence to Renenuet, suggesting they were to address her directly as part of a ritual. Why would they do that? If Amenemhat was basically a moon in front, Neferu-Ptah, basically beauties of Ptah, or beauties of heaven and things like that, why would they be out here dealing with Renenuet? Okay, first of all, who was Renenuet? Okay, yeah, this goes. This is different. Let me see. Yeah, Renenuet was a significant goddess in ancient Egyptian religion, known as the goddess of fertility, the harvest and nourishment. Fertility. Was Neferu-Ptah seeking aid to bear a child? What do y'all think? Was she out there trying to seek aid to bear a child? What do you think? Like and comment below. This is different. I don't know what to make of, y'all. So Neferu-Ptah and the Amenemhat Mighty Temple. Yeah, it gets complicated. Why? Because these people were different. They had different motives and different ideas. Neferu-Ptah is shown at the Mighty Temple as a young princess wearing a diadem with plumes similar to that worn in death by Princess Hiseteru Renet, daughter of Hathor and Dendera. So she had a headdress designed for the daughter of Heteru. And you see in her hand the little instrument dealing with Heteru. Okay, and so that is called the Sistrum. It was an instrument sacred to Hathor or Heteru. Her name says Ptah. She's over there at the Metmati temple with Heteru in her hand. Man. So this Sistrum was an instrument sacred to Hathor. Okay. And guess what? And somebody asked about the connection between the Ethiopian church and Kemet. That's one of them. That's one of them. Okay. That Sistrum, okay, the monks and priests of the Ethiopian church even today use it. They're very similar to those that we use for religious activity in Kemet. I told you, Kemet is part of Africa. Ethiopia is the grandmother of Kemet. The Nile Valley was one culture. They may have had different dialects, but they had a very similar culture, even in religious practices. So the princess' apparent association with Heteru would have probably been essential in the leading up to her being a royal wife. Now, was she seeking aid to bear a child? Yeah, I think so. As an incarnation of the goddess Heteru, she would have been expected to give birth to the living representation of Horus. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Who is she supposed to marry? It's getting different. Who was she? Who was available for her to marry? Yeah. Who was she available to marry at this time? Okay. Yeah, it's wow. The reality is, I told you, we mentioned it before. We're going to lean into a little bit more, but Amenemhat was not their brother. Amenemhat IV was not their brother. So the father, who's legitimate heir to the throne, the father wanted his daughter to reign as pharaoh, but she had to marry, right? So she had to marry this random cat named Amenemhat IV. But why does this dude have this guy's name and that's not his son for real? We're going to talk about that in a second. All right, the two kings' daughters. But before we get into two kings' daughters, have you heard of the tale of the two ladies? Yeah, Brother Mo asked about it. You want to know about this story? We're about to get into it next week. Yeah, we're going to talk about Nekhbet and Wajet next week. Yes, sir. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about that. I think the fam really enjoys when we kind of go off into these side quests discussing different mythology and folk tales of African in Kemet, and that's one of them. We're going to get into the tale of two ladies, all right? So we have to assume that Sobekneferu formed an integral part of the royal dynasty as the seventh and final ruler of the 12th dynasty. There were 8, but she was the 7th and final. Seven. Huh. That means something too. All right. But according to Collins, this seems confirmed from the inscription on the status base found in Tel Gezer, which tells us that that Sobekneferu was the king's daughter of his body. That is the same title given to Neferu-Ptah in the inscriptions describing her. So Neferu-Ptah had that. Let me see if I can go back to it. Right here. Right here That means of his body. Okay. So she had that same similar designation. So I'm trying to find out, how did she get that title? How did she get that designation? Yeah. Because was Neferu-Ptah living at the time? Was she living at the time? All right. So Sobekneferu is also named king's daughter. Also, Sobekneferu directly associates herself with her father within the inscriptions found in the labyrinth. So get this. We talked about chambers under the pyramids, but there is legit a labyrinth in that area. There is a labyrinth, or it was. Okay. So the people of Greece and Rome knew about a labyrinth, and they wrote about it and they talked about it. There were inscriptions with her name as the king's daughter. The thing is, she mentioned directly, Sobekneferu as well as Neferu-Ptah directly mentions that they were the king's daughter. They didn't associate themselves directly with Amenemhat IV. They always said the king's daughter. You know, daddy's girls or something. I think it's something else. But yeah, we talked about the unveiling mysteries and secret chambers and ancient initiations. We talked about that, but there is a labyrinth. Okay. And yeah, the majestic gateway. We're going to talk about Hatshepsut's temple really soon. We're going to talk about that. And the majestic gateway to the Neteru, to the gods, and the afterlife. So we are going to get further into detail with Hatshepsut's Jeseru. We're going to talk about that. But now, the question is, since they're saying they're the king's daughter, did y'all, based on what you know so far, did Amenemhat want someone else to rule, more specifically his daughters, and not him? Because we only see the royal cartouche around her name along the relief in the Amenemhat Madi in that temple. And so I don't think he wanted Amenemhat IV to rule. I don't think so. I think he wanted his daughters to take over. Okay. But, and get this, y'all. I know I'm going ahead of myself. Get this. So Sobekneferu during this time, while Neferu-Ptah, while her older sister, because Neferu-Ptah is the older sister, while she was living, Sobekneferu's name was not mentioned anywhere. Yeah. So that lets me know that the father wanted the eldest daughter to rule. Okay. So why the New Egyptologists don't want to bring the labyrinth with all the ancient names? The reason why is because one reason is it's ruined beyond repair. Okay. Ruined beyond repair. They kind of got an idea or outline of it, but they don't like the Sphinx or like the other temples that are up. It's gone. It's like bits and pieces like this, right? Yeah, his daughters did have the juice, and they had the lineage. Mo says his daughters had the juice. They had the lineage. They had it. So there was no way for somebody else to come in and say, "Hey, I'm going to rule." No, he had two daughters. Well, okay, we're going to find out he had multiple daughters. Okay. He had a lot of girls. But his oldest daughter, Neferu-Ptah, at the time was living, who was in line to be the next pharaoh. Sobekneferu's name wasn't mentioned anywhere yet. Okay. Yeah. His daughters did have the Jews, though. All right. So according to the Amenemhat Madi temple and from Neferu-Ptah's pyramid, the king was okay with this new progressive attitude towards kingship. This might have paved the way, though, by putting her name in the Shem. This might have paved the way for Sobekneferu's own eventual reign. This probably lightened the blow, probably prepared them, okay, because they have that title, king's daughter. They have the Shem around their name. So it makes it clear that the chosen successor was Neferu-Ptah, okay, and not Sobekneferu. So the female successor on record, okay, was Neferu-Ptah because she was the king's eldest daughter and the natural heir to the throne. That's what it was. That's what it was. Okay. So Sobekneferu may have been a few years younger, but she was not the oldest. Neferu-Ptah was. Okay. So the question is, though, who was Amenemhat? And how did he fit into the royal family? And who was their mother? Matter of fact, it's not even on here. Who was his mama? Because for some reason, this dude, he was able to slide up in. He was able to make his way in here. He wasn't that person. So dealing with the king's daughter, tell the two ladies we're going to deal with that. Next week, the king's stepson. We're going to answer a few questions and a few shout outs, and I'm still checking roll. All right. Don't miss out. Now, what happened to her? The fate of Neferu-Ptah. What do you think happened to her? Because she was in position. She was in position to take over. What do you think? What do you think happened to her? It's sad, but obvious answer is that she may have died fairly young. She may have died young. She may have died young. Matter of fact, she may have died before her father died. Her father put everything in place, but she passed away before he did. Okay? And if she had been chosen to rule alongside Amenemhat, then her demise must have thrown the royal dynasty not only in the period of mourning, but into turmoil. Because remember, we mentioned that Sobekneferu had to go through special trials and special initiation processes. I believe if Neferu-Ptah's name was already in the cartouche, she went through that process for real. And Sobekneferu had to go through a makeshift process, right? And so, yeah, she died young. And even before her father, Collins, the author stated that if she had been officially chosen to rule alongside Amenemhat, her demise must have brought everything out of control. But so Amenemhat IV, y'all, was a plan B. He wasn't even in the equation. She died young. She was positioned to be ruler. We're just gonna have him marry this dude over here. So the choice is clear. Okay, she was the successor is Neferu-Ptah and the natural heir to the throne. And so now, because right now, during this time, Sobekneferu was a priestess. He was a priestess. She wasn't even dealing with anything like this. Of course, we mentioned that her name and her title, Merit, okay, beloved, okay, loved of Ra and all those things, that was priestess name. So at this time, while this was happening, while Neferu-Ptah was in position of being positioned to be pharaoh, Sobekneferu was a priestess. Okay, Sobekneferu was a priestess. And so if Neferu-Ptah really was the rightful heir to the throne of Egypt, it seems likely that she was the most eligible and she was prepared. But the question is, what did she get sick? Did she have an accident? Yeah. Hey, Miss Haynes, what's going on? Good afternoon. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. But yeah, what happened to her? All right, because Sobekneferu was over there being a priestess, and they had to find out there was two different mothers now. Yes, indeed. So of course, we understand that Amenemhat may or may not be directly related But what about the daughters? Okay, what about the daughters? And so I think that all that has goes into play. The mother, what was their mother's lineage? Where were they from? Yeah. Mo saying someone may have wanted her to be removed. Who was that someone, Mo? So, yeah, I think somebody got their hands dirty. All right. So, what was their mother? Did Amenemhat want somebody else to rule? We already know that. And we're going to find out, was Amenemhat IV not royal, not like us? Okay. The queen mother. Yes, the queen mother. The fate of the dynasty in chapter 12. Amenemhat the third's principal wife, who was presumably also his queen for much of his reign, her name was Aat. Her name was A-A-T, Aat. Okay, which means the great one. Sadly, we don't know anything else about her. So, the principal mother, the queen mother, Aat, had these two daughters. Okay, we know for sure she had Neferuptah. But we also know that she did not have Amenemhat IV. That wasn't her son. Yep, the great one. And of course, we know that she died before her daughter passed and her husband passed and all these things. So we're going to get into the Black Pyramid. We're going to go into detail about that and the Ceneret Pyramid. And because there is a false door in the Black Pyramid, there is a false door, okay, bearing her name. Okay, when they explored the Black Pyramid, at the Dashur, okay, the Black Pyramid was built in it was found in the late 19th century. And even though they didn't reach the tomb on the inside, they didn't reach the tomb of Aat, he did find some items with her name on it. And it included the stone false door, okay, which is with the fragment of her offering table. Now, the false door, a lot of people would try to say that was designed to fool the grave robbers, right? No, it wasn't. The false door was designed for the deceased to go into the realm of the ancestors. Okay, that was what the false door was for. It was to go from this physical plane into the realm of the ancestors. It was for them. And this particular false door had the name of Aat on it, the queen mother. So, on entering its interior, he saw before him a large sarcophagus, various pieces of funerary equipment that were scattered about the place, including broken canopic chests or jars, complete with 7 alabaster cases. And from it, the inscription of the false door, it appeared the name Aat had borne, it had the title King's Wife. Okay, so on that false door, on this door, not this one, but on the false door, it had King's Wife. Okay, and united with the white crown of Upper Egypt. While examination of her remains revealed that she died young too. The queen mother, she died at about 35 years old, according to their record. So she died young. Her oldest daughter died young. That's crazy. All right. So as they did that, she may have been 35. Her aunt was clearly the important royal wife and was no doubt the mother of one or more of the king's children. And so the confusing matter was the second wife. Yeah. Yeah. Amenemhat, he had quite a few wives. he had a second wife, the other wife. Okay, while going through the Black Pyramid, y'all, they uncovered the tomb of his second wife. Okay, but this is not Aat. This was somebody else, and she, according to their sources, she was 25. Wow, this man, he ruled for 45 years and his wives died young. Yeah, 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 he had another wife. Yeah, these folks is something, right? Now, so there's another belief showing of showing Amenemhat IV standing with another woman named uh, Hetepti. She is referred to as the king's mother, not Amenemhat III's mother, but the non-royal person, his mother. Yeah, most say King Amenemhat IV. The reason why they died so young was because he got on their nerves real bad. Yeah, he he was probably terrible. Do something else, woman. Man. But yeah. And so Hetepti identity is unknown of the unknown royal wife buried in Amenemhat the third's pyramid at Djezur. So we don't know if that Hetepti is the other wife, but we do know what we do know is that Amenemhat, she is identified to be his mother. Now, it doesn't say who his father is. Okay, according to this research, according to Egyptology and all that, all they can say is they know who his mother is. They have some speculation though, but based on this, okay, Neferu-Ptah's mother is Aat. Neferu-Ptah's father is Amenemhat III, the king. She was in line to rule. Sobekneferu, who's her mother, was she also the mother? We don't know. So, was Amenemhat IV not royal? Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. So, somehow, some way, this man or this boy got lucky. he came in just in time when all this was happening to become the last king of the 12th dynasty. But he was not, according to sources, he's not royalty. Okay, he wasn't born into it. But before we get into that, got a question. All right, this is fun. Beach vacation or mountain retreat? Beach vacation or mountain retreat? I tell you, I like to be on the beach. I like to be outside with my feet in the water. I'm not gonna lie to you. What do y'all think? Beach vacation or mountain retreat? Because we're about to talk about his kinfolk. We're gonna talk about who he is for real and how did he show up. Beach vacation or mountain retreat? Okay, like and comment below. All right, Amenemhat IV's non-royal blood. This is what the book say. The book is saying Amenemhat IV, Sobekneferu's successor, was not royalty. That's why they were saying in their inscription. That's why they were saying in their writing. Let me get this. Let me. That's why they were saying the king's daughter. The king, they were not associating themselves with him. They was associating themselves with their father. He said, beach vacation. I'm not about to. Yeah, stuff falling down now. I can't, and I'm too clumsy. I can't go up the mountains and then tear up my ankles. Now, beach vacation. Yeah. So, I mean, they you notice that when they're actually saying this, okay. No, Neferu-Ptah is out the picture, but this young man is still in the mix, right? So, according to the scholar, according to Kim Rylot, okay, He proposed the rightful heir was Neferu-Ptah. Of course, we think so too. Amenemhat IV was then picked to be the country's male ruler, despite of his non-royal blood, with Neferu-Ptah ruling by his side. So they weren't like siblings or something like that, being married to one another. This person came in from outside the family. So they weren't really brother and sister. Okay, they weren't. So Roy advances the theory that Amenemhat IV was related to, get this, a court official named Aku. This boy was related to somebody else who bought a title overseer of the fields. He was basically like into farming and stuff like that. He was not royalty. As evidence of his relationship, he cites the fact that Anku's mother was a woman named Anku's mother, okay, named Meritesi, who's posthumously given the title after her death, King's sister. You know how we are as a people. You know how we are. What we would do, we would when somebody passed, they kind of a friend to the family. So what we do, we take their children in. I think Amenemhat was one of those cases. Yes, indeed. Yeah, love child. Yeah. She got them beats, y'all. All right. But I think Amenemhat IV was one of those cases where Anku was a real cool guy. The king knew him and knew his family. He just brought him in. During her life, Meritesi bore no royal title. So she and her family had to have been of non-royal birth. So she was not a noble. They weren't viziers, nothing like that. They were not part of the royalty, but they were in and around that proximity. He was the overseer of the fields. Amenemhat, his father, he was an official, but he wasn't royalty. So Rahul goes on to propose that Sobekneferu was indeed the daughter of Amenemhat III, which was why the labyrinth she had commissioned had various inscriptions and card panels linking herself directly to her father, not her brother. Yep. And get this, while I'm reading, it says Anku's own career had begun as a temple scribe. He was a scribe. Anku, he was a scribe. So, of course, scribes had a lot of legal power, a lot of paperwork behind it, but they weren't royalty, right? So, when just as a young prince, he became a retainer to Amenemhat III. So, Anku was around when Amenemhat III's father was living. So Anku, he was okay. He was kind of important, but he wasn't royalty. But he took care of Amenemhat III. The king's sister, that may have been, like one of the elders or whatever, but he watched him. He taught him. He was basically like a godfather. Anku was basically Amenemhat III, the king, king father, his godfather. So Anku really, even though he was a scribe, he's very close to the royal family. He wasn't royalty, but he was part of the royal family, right? So as we're seeing that when Anku passed, when his mother was gone, what about this boy? What about Amenemhat III? What about Amenemhat IV? What about him? What are we going to do? We just can't just put him out there like that. Okay, we're just going to take him in. I'm going to make him my son. I'm going to bring him in as my son. I'm going to train him. Yeah. That like that's my brother, but not by blood. Yeah, brother from another mother, literally, right? So in this case, Amenemhat IV was not royalty, but the king took him in. But that's very similar to another story. I think it's an Old Testament story where the pharaoh took in somebody. All right. All right. So now, the fact that nowhere in the labyrinth or indeed any monument does Neferu link herself to Amenemhat IV has raised suspicions that she kind of fell out with him. She probably didn't really deal with him that much. But now her father's gone and her sister's gone. She's sure not going to really deal with him like that. Yeah. And so the manner in which Amenemhat III is depicted let me go back on this panel here. Okay. On this design here, on this meta-nature right here, okay, it shows that he's the deified ancestor. Okay, we have Sobekneferu right here. We have Amenemhat with the Jed and the Ankh, which basically means eternity. Okay, eternal status or established forever. All right. So he is a deified ancestor, a living God, one now able to convey his divine blessings upon the true successor, his daughter Sobekneferu. So you see, he's pointing the Ankh to her. He's basically crowning her. He's basically verifying or validating or affirming Sobekneferu and nobody else. And the fact that nowhere in the labyrinth, it shows that she didn't want to be affiliated with Amenemhat like that. It could be pointed out also that Amenemhat IV's name does not appear in the labyrinth at all. Whatever Sobekneferu had to do with anything, Amenemhat she didn't put that boy's name on anything. That also can give some kind of indication that he wasn't royalty like that. Okay. And get this, he may have been chosen to finish the work after Sobekneferu passed, but they ain't my family, so I'm gonna move on. Right? So the king's stepson, non-royal blood, yeah. We're gonna talk about the fall from grace, what happened to Sobekneferu and everybody around her. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that this May. Sibling rivalry. Yeah. Because we still are not clear as to what happened to Neferu-Ptah. We're not clear about that. We're not clear on none of this. What we do know is that we're starting to see some movement going on. Some people were royalty, some people were not. Some people were crowned as king, but somehow didn't make it. Yeah, both siblings were probably, I would say, Neferu-Ptah was A'at's child, but I really think Sobekneferu and Amenemhat may have been brother and sister. Okay, through Hatepi. We don't know though. We don't know for sure. Okay, matter of fact, we don't even know if Amenemhat IV, the non-royal, with different parents, we don't know if he was older than Sobekneferu. We do know that Sobekneferu's father is Amenemhat III, but the mother's still in question. Okay. All right. So we know, unfortunately, however, a lot of things have happened. A lot of things have changed. Of course, when Greece and Rome came to Egypt, they removed a lot of the markers. They rearranged the faces of the artifacts and everything. So it's possible that Amenemhat was older than both of them, so Sobekneferu and Neferu-Ptah, but he was not royalty, right? So from all the evidence gathered, according to science and to archaeology, is that there was two reasons why Neferu-Ptah became leader. She was older than Amenemhat IV, and she was born to Amenemhat III and A'at, the queen mother. And bottom line, Amenemhat, and you know what? I think this also. I think the father knew that Amenemhat IV was not cut like that. he was not built to rule. He was not that person. I think somebody mentioned in the chat before that Amenemhat saw his stepson. He wasn't strong enough. I think that. I think that his son his father watched him over the years and said, "No, he's not. He can't rule by himself. He can't do it." Okay, and so, but get this though, his father's not. Amenemhat III is gone, and up until this point, Sobekneferu was not in the picture as far as being ruler as of yet. So now we have factions involved because remember that Sobekneferu had to have a special festival to make sure she would be traditionally recognized. So whoever these people were, they was part of the system. And they wanted to make sure the transition of power was solid. And so Sobekneferu's claim to the throne would have been obscure in nature, but she would have been seen as substituting. She may have been the substitute for the ruler and not the ruler. So now she had to, I believe Sobekneferu really had to put matters in her own hands. Yeah, so those kings and queens know if their heir were fit to take the top role or not. You're right. You're right. Now I think Neferu-Ptah was fit to rule, but she didn't live long enough. She didn't live long enough. And Amenemhat, he wasn't ready. He may have been older, but he wasn't ready and he wasn't legit. And then Sobekneferu was over here. What happened to all of them? Was Sobekneferu? Now I got a question though. Was Sobekneferu involved in any of this? Did she? Because remember, she aligned herself with the factions of Sobek and all that. She was with the priest a lot. She already had that. She already had the religious and spiritual people in her back pocket. Do you think she had a hand in not only her maybe? Well, I wouldn't say her father's death, but definitely we think she had a hand with her sister's death. Because she didn't even get in that spot. So how might Sobekneferu have become convinced that she herself was destined to rule? She must have had a vision of something. She must have had an idea. I'm thinking about doing some research on the health of these particular women. Yeah, because they did die young. They did die young. But what was it? Because we got the old man over here. The father, he ruled 45 years and everybody else died in their 20s and 30s. Yeah, it may be health. It may have been health. Yeah, it may have been health. But that's crazy. That's crazy. So Sobekneferu either directly or indirectly responsible to the death of her sister, the woman whose shoes she would step into immediately upon the ascension of Amenemhat IV. Because remember, we said that Neferu-Ptah was supposed to marry Amenemhat IV, who was not royalty. Royalty was marrying non-royalty, and Sobekneferu was over there. By taking her out, basically by right, she would be in that spot next. Yeah. And so all we can say, according to the author, all we can say for sure is that he was entered. The king father, okay, after 45 years, okay, he was buried away from everybody. He got on everybody's nerves. Everybody died young, but he said, "Look, I'm gonna get away from everybody." Wow. So he's not even where he's supposed to be at. And so when Neferu-Ptah now out of the picture, the death of Amenemhat III saw the ascension to the throne of his stepson, the son of Heptepi. According to the Turin canon, he would go to reign for 9 years and 3 months, 27 days. The first year or two forming a part of a co-regency with his father. Some scholars believe that Sobekneferu married her brother or whoever this random person is. Okay, some scholars believe that and became his royal wife. And so they ruled. I believe they was tough. So they ruled out of fear and respect, right? So Sobekneferu, if she had that power, and had she been a complete outsider and just chilling with the priesthood, she just so happened to take the throne because she was the last person left standing in the royal dynasty, then there would be no way she could have achieved that she did by herself. She didn't act alone. According to the author, she did not act alone. Okay. What is more, she must have successfully fought off many challenges to reign. So that's where that name Sobek come in. Okay, you talked about it a while ago about the kings and priests getting into it and knowing their roles, but also the queens and the women priests. The priests were very knowledgeable and had people. They sure did, and a lot of influence. Because I think there was something that religiously happened and it went wrong. Yeah, I said it. I did. I read ahead. I did. I read ahead, and I think what happened to Sobekneferu, I think there was something religious that was supposed to take place, but it went wrong. Yeah. So she had to. But in order for her to even take that seat, she had to successfully fight off many challenges to reign through sheer determination. Because I think that she really believed she was going to be a pharaoh, regardless of who's in power. I think her aspirations and her mindset was different, and she was really focused on that seat. Yeah, the priest did have people behind them, and they had a lot of resources. Okay, because we talked about there's different cults and different factions, and the priests got into it with priests too. They weren't all holding books in their hand and just with their head up or eyes closed meditating. They got active because the priests of Amun had their own guard. They had their own military. Think about it. A priesthood having their own military. They could do anything at any time. Yeah. What may have happened to Sobekneferu, a sacrifice or ritual? I don't know, because she, according to what we're reading, she was really into the esoteric. She was into spirituality and things like that. So she was trained to be a priestess. Yeah, she had aspirations to be pharaoh because it was her spot, but I think she went too far into that. And I think she looked too far. You know how you look into the sun too long, you may go blind. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I think it may have been, but we'll talk about that. We'll get into that. And so, according to the author, he's quoting Kim Ryholt. He talked about Sobekneferu's attitude towards her own brother. Okay, he sees their relationship, particularly at the end of his reign, somewhat disharmonious. It was isfet. There was no ma'at between the siblings. There were no peace and harmony between them. That's reality. This last statement stems. He says it was seen, therefore, Sobekneferu usurped the throne from the heirs of Amenemhat. In other words, his two sons. So Amenemhat IV had two sons. and they was supposed to be next after Amenemhat IV, who was the royal stepson, right? They were supposed to be next. She said, "No, forget all that. I'm running it." So this may reflect dissatisfaction on her behalf with the adoption as co-regent of a man who was not part of her family. So Sobekneferu stood on business. This dude was not, yeah, the king. My father may like him, but I don't like him. Yeah. And I really believe Sobekneferu, she was serious about that. You hear that. Talking about the daughter of her father, her father's daughter. And she always connected herself with her father and nobody else. Not even with her sister. Yeah. And so dealing with the ritual, dealing with some of the things she did with later on in her life. Yeah, she may have flew too close to the sun. Yeah, Miss Blue. She may have did that. Yeah, she may have did that. But we're gonna find out. All right. So this, she was dissatisfied with her brother. Okay, this dissatisfaction experienced by Sobekneferu that the archaeologist feels came from the fact that Amenemhat IV was of non-royal blood, could have derived from somewhere else altogether. Okay, what then might have been what might have been the problem? One possibility is that it stemmed from the fact that Sobekneferu's half sister Neferu-Ptah had been chosen above her to rule the two lands alongside of her brother. But we got to be honest, though.